Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video. This is yours truly, Culture Shock, and we are coming off of a victory. The Indianapolis Colts just defeated the New York Jets. This is the game that schedule changed earlier in the season due to that abysmal performance earlier in the weeks. So they wound up rescheduling this game to a morning game. And little do you know, the Colts wound up walking away with the victory, 28-27. Anthony Richardson walk-off touchdown. This game was everything. It was exciting. It was a very exciting game, honestly. You got to see Richardson come back to the starting position to see how he was going to perform. And overall, I think he had a very great performance. Of course, it wasn't like, Peyton Manning with Tom Brady of that nature, but this was definitely an upgrade of what we've seen the last 2 weeks. Honestly, we had Joe Flacco, and it just wasn't a great outcome performance-wise at the quarterback position. Before all of that, they had the Richardson tap out the helmet situation when he tapped the helmet. Joe Flacco became the starter. They gave us this brief discussion about how he's going to put us in position to contend, make the playoffs. We're a competitive team. We're in win now mode. Yada yada yada. All these things. Pretty much, they was just throwing stuff out there to make us convince us at least that Flacco was the answer for the quarterback position. And little do you know, that wasn't the answer at all. He had a very bad performance the last 2 games. They were going off that Jacksonville performance, in which we still lost that game. But I think he was willing and dealing in their eyes. And, Richardson wind up, hitting the sideline, being on the bench for 2 weeks. Of course, we thought this was disciplinary actions moving forward, but he was still developing, processing, taking his time, developing as a quarterback. Come back this week against a New York Jets team that's on the brink of just draft mode eventually. But this team is very talented still. They have a lot of talent on both sides of the football. Their defensive line unit is one of the best in the league as well. Despite the record might not show that, but these guys pretty much are up there in sack percentages and pressures as well. Quentin Williams has just been a dog all year. That front is really good. And this game, the Indianapolis Colts had 3 rookies in the offensive line. We already knew that they were going to feast in the preview video, so that was just no question and a no-brainer at all. But this team actually, held their own and wound up getting a W. It didn't look that way in the certain moments of the game because once the Jets got hot, they were starting to wheel and deal. And you started to think like, well, the Jets might win this game. But the Colts dug themselves out of the hole and got the dub. Anthony Richardson had a flat-out amazing performance. Total yards as a team for the Colts was 332. Passing yards was 241. The rushing game took a big hit this week, but again, I said this Jets defensive line is really good. So they were doubling down on stopping Richardson and Jonathan Taylor. Even though that's something we wanted out of the duo to preview, we just knew both of those guys were going to be dominate this game, in our opinion, because we know how good of a threat both of them are at the same time on the field. But that just wasn't the case. This Jets defense was dialed in on stopping the run, and they pretty much did. They pretty much held this team pretty much under 100 yards rushing in general. So it wasn't a good performance of running the football. The designs was great. We had a good idea and a good mindset, but this Jets defensive line was just too good. So we got to give credit where credit is due. But back to the defense for the Jets, like the Jets defense, of course, they got talent everywhere, but Richardson still found a way through the air. And that was one thing that was pretty much revealing. The run game didn't work, but they tried to force Richardson to throw. And every time he got a chance to, he did that. He definitely did that. So he got to give credit where credit is due. Richardson throwing the football today looked very polished, very comfortable. Of course, he had a few passes where it was bad throwing off his back foot and things of that nature. The receivers dropped a few balls. But overall, in general, you've seen the progression and how he developed in throwing the football today. He looked very comfortable. A lot of explosive plays, which was another thing that this offense was missing. The offense was missing explosive plays. Anthony Richardson was the king of explosive plays early on in this year, which led the Colts to having one of the best offenses scoring-wise in the league. But, of course, they hit this hiccup and they went into a slump. But you've seen the explosive plays come back this week. Anthony Richardson throwing it up to Alec Pierce at the end of the game over Jalen Mills was a beautiful throw, and the clutch time we needed. And one of those things that we kind of figured going into the season, or even this game as well, is that Anthony Richardson is really good in the 2-minute drill. Like under the 2-minute drill, we've seen in OTAs, training camp, preseason, 2-minute drill, he's very comfortable and more explosive in those type of moments. Of course, this was the big game and big pressure to try to force this team to get into a victory, and he wound up wheeled and dealed and got into the end zone. There was a point when we got into the goal line before he ran into for the second touchdown that he had this like chuckle, like he laughed. Like when he did that, I was like, "Oh, this guy's about to do something crazy." And little do you know, they tried to run the football a few times, it didn't work, and then Anthony Richardson took it himself to the left side of the line and wound up walking into the end zone, actually trucking into the end zone. So he's a freak of nature. He's very athletic, got a good arm. He's very talented. And, of course, a lot of people didn't like Anthony Richardson, taking up so much contact and trucking those defenders. But the only thing I can piggyback off is if Anthony Richardson is doing that to maybe a DB and not a lineman or linebacker, I'm all for it. I mean, he's bigger than most of those guys anyway. So I'm all for him trucking a DB out the air or, through running through a DB to get into the end zone because he's much bigger and stronger. He's pretty much a lineman himself at quarterback. This dude is like 6'5" and 340. He is a freak of nature. And a lot of people seem to forget that. But it is what it is at the end of the day. Like I said, Anthony Richardson was 20 for 30, 272 yards, and 1 touchdown passing. And rushing, he had 2 touchdowns, 10 carries, and 32 yards. This offense with Shane Steichen was much better and improved than what we've seen earlier in the year and the last 2 weeks as well. It looked more like that 2023 Colts offense that we're used to seeing, like that offense against Houston, that offense against Tennessee, that offense against Jacksonville. Like all of those offenses that we've seen from last year where Richardson started to flourish, we've seen those moments this day. So it was a good thing to see. Richardson definitely, wheeled and dealed and pretty much got it done on both sides, throwing and running the football. A very polished and franchise quarterback type play this week. Of course, I feel like a lot of people are going to probably overgas it, but watching this game, he gave you nothing but hope moving forward. Like he definitely feel like it felt like he developed and learned his game over the process of him setting out. It was like a wake up call almost. Of course, we knew that he had this potential. It is one game, but this one game it definitely showed a lot of what the potential can be, especially if we had the offensive line that we're used to seeing. Of course, like I said, we had 3 rookies on the offensive line today, and that Jets defensive line was pretty much picking them apart all week. I think the weakest spot in today's performance against the Jets was the offensive line, and no question about it. The offensive line was very bad, but like I said, they're very young and inexperienced. Going up against an experienced defensive line, it's going to look like that. I'm just glad Richardson kept his composure, even besides the fumble and everything. He kept his composure, stayed locked in, and got the job done. And that's all that matters is winning at the end of the day. Of course, every drive didn't end with a touchdown. Matt Gay, he got us on the board a few times, which was good. Special teams was on fire today as well. So we got to give credit where credit is due. But the Colts defense was another weak spot, but not the weakest spot, I would say, in my opinion. They tried their best. They did what all they could do. They were on the field for a while. We had a few slumps on the offensive side, but it was just due to people not making plays in general. Like I said, the game plan was there. You just got to go out there and execute. So the defense, of course, was out there more than normal. And it left a few holes. It left a few gaps as well. Aaron Rodgers is still the quarterback on the opposite side. Despite of how old he is, he still has one of the best arms in the league, and he showed that. On that third down, when he wound up hitting the wide open seam, there was like 4 Colts DBs on Kenny Moore. I think it was a tight end that caught the football. But, Rodgers put it on the money. He did that a lot of times today. It was Jeremy Ruckert. When he threw the pass to Jeremy Ruckert, right in Kenny Moore's lap, like it was right there, but the ball placement was so pure that nobody but his receiver can get it. And that just shows you the expertise of Aaron Rodgers. Besides of how bad the Jets are, like record-wise, like I said, playmakers are going to find a way to make a play regardless of the situation. Breece Hall had a phenomenal game. I thought he was going to, take this team and win, running the football and receiving. Devontae Adams had a lot of explosive plays today against this Colts defense, but the Colts defense did all they could. Like I said, they were flying around. Zaire had a good game. EJ Speed almost sold us, with the delay of game at the end of the game. He was trying to be smart, like getting up very slow and everything like that, but it definitely could have cost us the game. But the defense, like I said, stepped up. Kwity Paye, huge hit. He had a very big day. Latu got a sack this week. He was very impressive all game as well. So it was a good day for the defense in general. Like I said, they had a lot of hiccups, but it was bend but don't break. When it really mattered, they stepped up to the plate. Jalen Jones gets nothing but credit for this game against the Jets, playing some good wide receivers, and he was just flying all over the field, swatting everything out of the air. I would have loved if he got an interception, but that's good enough for me. Kenny Moore on the screen plays, you know how good he is when he comes to those type of plays. He was a dog, but Jalen Jones, like I said, he's very scrappy when he's playing. Of course, I started to grow my fandom towards him over the season, like when the season started. But today, he definitely showed that he's a lot. He's one of those corners that could be solidified in that cornerback room for the Colts moving forward. I think he earned his spot, no question about it. Like Jalen Jones had a really good week, so we got to give him all the credit. Josh Downs had himself a big day as well. Josh Downs and Anthony Richardson, the duo that we all love to see. It was an amazing day for Josh Downs. We got to give him credit. Marley Cox had a 50-50 game, I would think, in my opinion. Of course, he had a few drops, but he made a big catch on third down. And, he just used his size and his hands to his advantage, which was an amazing thing to see. Um, but other than that, Alec Pierce, he had himself a good day going up against his former teammate Sauce Gardner on a few reps. He had a few big plays as well. Of course, Sauce was frustrated. He wound up taking one of those neck pieces off that he has on, and he just was, he was going through it all day, honestly. But Nick Cross, he had himself a good play today. I thought he would have scored, but I don't know if they gave it to him or not. Grant Stewart had himself a good day. My dog, Grant Stewart. Samuel Womack, he was 50-50. He wound up getting scored on later on by the rookie for the Jets. It was pretty much a blown coverage, in my opinion. I think his name was Kenny Oba. Kenny got his first touchdown in the NFL against the Colts, so credit to him. Shout out to Kenny. But Samuel Womack, he was 50-50 today. But like I said, this team was bend but don't break, had a very solid performance. They wound up getting a dub. Moving forward, this is definitely a confidence builder. And you've seen a lot of potential in this game, honestly, despite of what you want to think uh, playoff-wise and everything like that. This team showed a lot of potential moving forward. And this team, like I said, it was very balanced on both sides. The offense showed up and the defense showed up in certain moments as well. And that's the one thing you love to see, because I always talk about how it's only one side of the football always performing and the other side struggling. But I think we've seen some bright spots from both sides today, which is a good thing. Shane Steichen and Gus had this team dialed in all day. So it was a good day. Like I said, they had a rough start of the second half, but they wound up figuring it out towards the end. They gave the team the chance to win, and that's all that matters, and that's a W. So, like I said, Richardson' performance was very good, in my opinion. It was probably one of his best performances since he came to the league, and it's up there, which is a good thing to have. So hopefully he can keep the momentum going, and, we're going to be proud of him regardless of the situation. Definitely took a lot of growth in his gameplay, as you can see. So we're going to be interested to see what's going to go on next week. But you guys let me know your thoughts, how he played, how the Colts played, who you think stepped up today and had a big game for both sides of the football. This is Culture Shock. Shout out to Rico Berto Sanchez, by the way. This is Culture Shock, and I'll see you guys next time.